mild indoctrination into the Jehovah Witness organization about maybe a few weeks ago came from a direction that I have least expected, especially in this particular age group. In the meantime, I'm trying another tactic, and I'm going to start to get involved into the spirituality of my children, but I'm just going to go and research the Bible, read the Bible. Actually, I'm listening to the Bible, the audiobooks or whatever, on my phone, and I'm going from Genesis all the way over to Revelation, the whole Bible, and just listen to what it has to say. And I must admit, it is pretty interesting. The stories are really interesting to listen to, including some of the the moral lessons that it shows, especially in Proverbs and other chapters like that. So I'm actually kind of digging the Bible. Not that I'm gonna, I'm still skeptical or an agnostic, but other than that, as a work of literature, I think it's pretty good, kind of like Shakespeare in a way, especially when I'm listening to the King James version of the Bible. So I'm coming up to speed as to what the Bible actually is talking about, and the lessons in it, and the stories and the verses that the organization, the Jehovah Witness organization, use so much against their people. I think they use the Bible as a weapon against their people, where I'm going to try to use the Bible as a shield to shielding my children from the organization. And already I'm up to Ezekiel right now as far as listening to the chapters, and there's just a wealth of information that is in my favor as far as what it says, and all the discrepancies that the Watchtower has given, their interpretation of. But that is my strategy that I'm doing now. So in the meantime, I'm learning the Bible, listening to it, and coming up to speed as to the whole scope of the Bible itself. And the approach that I'm taking it is, the Bible, as far as the Watchtower organization, is a legal document. As far as them using it, a lot of legalism surrounding the Bible, as to that's pretty much the basis of how they operate. So things are going as planned, and totally in my favor. I got all the time in the world to do some really deep Bible study on my own. The wife, she wants to move. That'll be the separation between the grandparents and the kids. And mind you, it's not going to be like a total separation. We're going to be close enough to where we can visit, but the visits will be well supervised, as far as one of us being there around our kids at all times. The grandparents will not be in total, taking away the kids from them completely. It's just going to be just a separation of terrain between us, which is good, because they really cannot afford to come over and visit us, or to come and stay with us anyway. So it's going to be an inconvenience for them to come out to see us, which is just fine. But we'll be close enough to help them out if they need it, if need be. Things are great. Getting up to speed with the Bible lingo and its contents, and things are going pretty good. Slowly, but still. Indoctrination in a Jehovah Witness organization is a slow, methodical, subtle process. So is the sort of counteraction against the indoctrination, in my opinion, as far as what I've observed so far. But then, some time ago, one of our kids, she's in grade school, and she is crying at night. She can't get to sleep because she thinks something's going to happen to me because I'm not a Jehovah Witness. And this is the side of the indoctrination that I didn't expect at all. One of her friends at school is a Jehovah Witness. So this other person, this other kid, has told my kid what will happen to me, the father, because I'm not a Jehovah Witness. Now, this other person, yeah, he's also getting indoctrinated into the Jehovah Witness organization as a kid by the parents, who are both full-fledged card-carrying Jehovah Witness. And this particular family is sort of like, I wouldn't say royalty, but they are a big, huge Jehovah Witness family that's pretty prominent in our location. If you go into our area, and there's like maybe, I think, 3 or 4 congregations in our area, their names among a couple of other ones are like this huge family that just take over. Sort of like and it's a dynasty too of Jehovah Witnesses. So this poor kid is doesn't know anything other than the JW lifestyle. My child, on the other hand, is in the mixed sort of household where I'm not into Jehovah Witness, but my wife is. So yeah, my kid is crying, cannot go to sleep because she's a really deep thinker too. That's the thing. She really analyzes everything that everybody tells this particular kid of mine. So this is just going through this kid's head, and this kid is really sad that something's going to happen to me because I'm not a Jehovah Witness. So at first I am really angry. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. So my wife, she consoles this particular kid to sleep so far, and I'm sort of stunned and sort of like a deer caught in the headlights, just this glare of how am I gonna, react to this particular situation. I sleep on it. I think about it all night. I think the next day the kids and the wife, they go out somewhere else or something to that effect, or I go to work. That's what it is. I went to work, but the whole day I'm just trying to think, how am I going to rectify this particular situation? Because now my her psyche is being changed in front of me from this particular predicament, and how am I going to sort of litigate this particular problem without scarring my child from this scenario? And I'm just going to go through the chain of events that happened. Normally in my younger years, if something like this would have happened, it would have been an instant sort of reaction. I would have been really mad. I probably would have made a phone call. I wouldn't be yelling, up and down the hallway or anything of that nature, but I would really voice my concern and being a male, some choice words probably would have came out of my mouth at the same time without thinking about it. But I'm glad I slept on it and thought about it fully the next day. With the experience that I had so far as to, knowing the psyche of the Jehovah Witness organization, knowing that if I blew up in a negative way, that would be a prosecution complex that would trigger a defensive reaction from my wife and possibly my kids at this moment. So I couldn't do that. And waiting overnight and sleeping on it and then thinking about it the next day as to how, to come around this, it paid off. And believe me, I didn't think about this or become really rational. It just happened. I cooled off and just started to think how I was going to constructively react to this situation to where it goes against the expectation of a Jehovah Witness convention concerning a worldly spouse, again, reacting to a Jehovah Witness situation like this. What I decided to do and to fix this particular problem that we have with one of my children psychologically being tormented from the the myth that I'm going to be taken away or something's going to happen to me because I'm not a Jehovah Witness is I fell back to the Bible. As for some of yous out there, I'm just assuming I may have a mixed crowd out there, disenfranchised Jehovah Witnesses out there, possibly other worldly spouses. I know I have a couple of you guys out there, and ladies as well, and just people stumbling across this particular channel of my experiences with this. It may sound corny, or I'm selling religion, or something to that effect, but I assure you that I'm not. I fell back to the Bible and used the Bible to help me with this situation, not in a religious sort of a way or anything to that effect, but mostly used the Bible, like I said before, as a legal document or a legal precedence of the examples that the Bible could give me to ease my child's feelings about what she heard about this particular scenario. I used the Bible to comfort my child as to what will really happen to me if my heart is true, and things of that nature. And I'm going to relate these verses that I use, and I use the internet to kind of help me out into finding the appropriate verses from the Bible that I was able to relay this to my children and also to my wife, because at first, between my wife and I, she was concerned as well. She doesn't want my children to sort of, be tormented because my fate is unknown or whatever. She has her belief. She knows what's going to happen to me in her JW eyes if I don't, go into the fold. But my wife, she's at this moment, she's kind of like a lost cause in a way until she realizes things on her own. There's nothing I could say or do other than to keep doing what I'm doing, being a loving husband and all that stuff, and just letting her sort of, find things out on her own now, because I've tried. But it's not about my wife anymore. It's about my kids. But anyway, I had to sit down with her this particular day, and I gave her the verses. I told her that I was studying the Bible. I'm reading the Bible and sort of like, getting into, being familiar with the Bible. So with her, I wouldn't say approval, but with her input into how we're going to address this particular problem, because now it's a religious problem in a way, a theocratic problem. How are we going to rectify this? My wife could say something to her and everything, but I took this opportunity, after thinking about it, that perhaps this is my chance as to sort of declare my authority as head of the household in a way, and also possibly, at least to my kids, be somewhat of a authoritative, source of information concerning the Bible and religion. And if I step up and say, and break out some Bible verses to ease their concerns about my so-called fate later on. These are the verses that I use to kind of make my case to my children. Mind you, when I say take charge of head of the household, that is JW speak. Personally, my wife and I are equal, with equal footing in our household. There's no number one, number two, or who's head, or anything of that sort. But in the Jehovah Witness mindset, they sort of follow the headship of the household being the male, then ministerial servants, then elders, then, the progression all the way up to governing body member, and I think Jesus afterwards. Jesus is in there somewhere, but not really. But anyway, these are the verses that I've used. I didn't plan this, it just came out to be like this, a sort of declaration to my wife as to the explanation why I think the way I do as far as in regard to spirituality and Christianity specifically. But I started off with Acts 17, verse 11, and I'm paraphrasing. I'm gonna butcher the verses up and everything, but that particular verse is the Bereans to verify every statement said by Paul daily. The Bereans, they verified everything that Paul the Apostle says concerning the Bible and, the teachings of Jesus and stuff like that. So I sort of said that, hey, that's what I'm doing. I'm just verifying everything that's in the Bible compared to, what has been told so far from, a younger age and until now. And I'm relaying this to my kids to sort of let them know of my hesitance to becoming a JW or ever, or why am I not a Jehovah Witness, and these are the reasons why with these Bible verses here. Another verse after that was 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 21. Test all things, hold fast to what is good. Advice from the Bible saying to, test everything, question everything. And as far as my wife and I being, of a mixed sort of spiritual household, 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 14. I am sanctified by my wife under God's grace. I'm sure it doesn't say that as far as, word for word, but basically I am married, even though I'm an unbeliever, to my wife who is a believer, and that pretty much sanctifies me under that particular umbrella. That's how I take it. Another verse that I've brought up was Acts 15, verse 8. God knows my heart. He sees my true nature. 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7. The Lord looks on the heart. Another, cross-reference to that particular theme. 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 15 through 16. Christ came to save me, the worst of sinners, displaying perfect patience. So I could be the worst of the worst, but Christ, came to the earth to save me and has perfect patience after, waiting for me to sort of get my head straight, I guess. 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 9. Time is not like human time to God. He is patient with you, not wanting anyone to perish, but to wait for everyone to repent or to come clean. Obviously, that's a butchered paraphrasing of what that verse is saying, but you get the idea that God is patient with me until I kind of figure out what the hell's going on. Then finally, Deuteronomy 31, verse 6. Be strong and brave. God is with me and will never forsake. He will not give up on me and is patient. And it's pretty much a theme of, God is going to wait for me. He knows my heart. I'm true to my heart. So with those verses, I think I portrayed to my wife and my kids with biblical sort of examples as to where I'm coming from. I don't believe right now, but I am doing my research. I'm verifying everything at this point. They at least know that I am reading the Bible at this point and becoming well versed at it, or, up to speed with it, to kind of ease my kids' sort of heart on the matter of my fate afterwards, because they don't know the Armageddon thing yet or anything like that. It's still in the petting of pandas and God loves us and this, that, and the other. There are the verses that I told that God knows my heart, my kids know my heart, and to a certain extent, so does my wife, that God and Jesus will wait for me. And I thought when I came up with this idea and I came forth to my wife first before I started, got the whole family together as a sit down to kind of talk about what my child has been told by this other child about my fate afterwards. according to the Jehovah Witnesses. I thought I would be shut out, or sort of like, no, we're not going to do that. You're not going to, read from the Bible. It's got to come through, the Watchtower or the magazines or whatever, and she'll bring out whatever. She didn't do that. She was all for it. My wife, that is. We sat down. She thought it was perfect as far as the verses that I've chose. There's no. It was weird. After all these years of resistance and this wall built between us, we came to sort of a mutual understanding that was weird. And my kids, they don't bring up the subjects no more. My youngest, who had the sleeping problems and stuff, and the psychological sort of bend on the bad part of me dying in Armageddon, possibly. I don't think she knows I'm going to die or whatever, but she sleeps soundly now. I mean, she thinks about other stuff, but not JW related. But as far as my fate, and she's at ease with that. She understood, and she totally is on board with what I said, and it was great. My little experiment of using the Bible to shield against the Jehovah Witness usage of the Bible as a weapon has worked for this particular mini battle of mine, for the hearts and minds of my children. I'm excited about it. That's why I'm talking about this at this point and relaying my experience of this particular episode. Whether it will work later on or whatever, who knows, but I think I've discovered the kink, at least in my family, in my situation, of the Jehovah Witness armor that's being used against me. Not exactly used against me personally, but towards the future of my kids, which I'm trying to combat. There's a story. I've found sort of a solution how to counteract that particular method or scenario using the Bible to tell my kids what the Bible actually says about a certain situations. I'm not twisting words or not putting another translation in there that hasn't been, translated correctly by non-scholars, or adding words to somewhere or anything of that sort. Is just from the source. They can look it up. My wife actually has mentioned that she does like the King James Bible version. I'm going to take this to the races and see what happens, and I'll keep you all posted.